Hello everyone. So in this video I want to explain why I believe this proposal for incentivization of Interlay is a very bad proposal. So first of all, let's just look at the numbers before I explain the theory behind it and why I believe Interlay is kind of a flawed product. So it's something that is basically born defective and cannot function. It's kind of a trap to focus our efforts there. We would be much better off doing something like wrap BTC did on Ethereum, so doing something equivalent on Polkadot. But let's see first quickly the numbers. So here the goal is to try to incentivize 45 Bitcoins, which probably worth around $3 million, I guess, with a grant of 200,000 DOT, which is worth maybe $3 million. So we are going to pay, $1.5 million. So basically we are going to pay $1.5 million so that some people are temporarily going to put on, and I stress the word temporarily. So we are going to pay $3 million so that some people are going to temporarily bridge, let's say, $3 million on Polkadot for some time. I mean, that seems a little bit outrageous. Then I better to spend double and have those Bitcoin rather than, let's say, rent them in terms of liquidity for such a high price. But what is the real issue? So why I'm saying that it's flawed? So let me try to first briefly explain in a very simplified way how Interlay works. So the idea of Interlay is the following. It's that you can bridge Bitcoin on Polkadot in a decentralized way. So how does this work? So it works, so some people can run what's called a vault. A vault, it's basically a Bitcoin address. So you have a Bitcoin address, someone sends one Bitcoin to you, and of course you fully control that private key. You can do whatever you want with that Bitcoin. It's just yours. And then you mint, let's call it a synthetic Bitcoin, so something that represents a Bitcoin on Polkadot. Now this seems like a smart idea at first sight. It's similar to some extent to wrap Bitcoin, just that in wrap Bitcoin there is a multisig address of Bitcoin. So people will send Bitcoin to that multisig, and then the owners of that multisig will mint a wrap Bitcoin on Ethereum. Now, people will argue that this one is more decentralized, and it is true, because of course it's a single individual with a single key, which is called a vault, but there can be many of those people. And because they could individually do whatever they want with the Bitcoin, they could just take it away from the address and, let's say, steal it, they have to deposit a collateral. So they have to deposit a collateral in DOT that has to be worth much more than the original Bitcoin. I think it's 150%. So if someone sends you a Bitcoin, which I think is worth, let's say, $65,000, something like this, then you have to deposit a collateral worth $100,000 in DOT. Now this by itself would not be a problem. But the problem is that this collateral suffers some risk. Now, well, the first risk is that, of course, you could miss out on the rewards, on the staking rewards. But this is not a real risk because you could just use VDOT, which is liquid stake DOT, as collateral. So this problem is kind of removed. But the problem is still there is some risk, because if there is a huge move in the price of DOT or Bitcoin, then you will get margin called and you will lose the collateral. So there is a risk, and it's a risk that has a cost. People want to be rewarded for that risk. So let's say I run a vault, so I create a Bitcoin address, someone sends one Bitcoin, so I mint a synthetic Bitcoin, but then I have to leave a collateral in DOT for a value of, let's say, 1.5 Bitcoins. And if for any reason there was a very sharp move of DOT or Bitcoin, I will lose the collateral. I will lose my DOT. So of course, the risk, someone could argue the risk is low, but it's not zero. So there is a low risk that there is a strong price move that will liquidate my collateral. So in exchange for that risk, I expect compensation. And it's not going to be a very small compensation like, let's say, an ETF where maybe the fee is 0.1%. I mean, if there is a risk of total loss for a strong price move, you probably want at least 10 to 20% per year reward just for the risk. So on top of the inflation reward, so even if you're giving us collateral V dot, you still expect 10 to 20% per year return on your collateral. Remember, the collateral is 150%. So if you expect 20% return on the collateral, you expect 30% return on the Bitcoin, on the value of the Bitcoin, because the collateral has to be more than the Bitcoin. So the person who puts the collateral needs to receive at least 30% per year return. So who is going to pay? Of course, we can play games and say there is an incentive there, they get rewarded in ENTR and this and that. But at the end of the day, if we simplify the game and we look at the two players of the game, there is the person is providing the collateral that makes the issuance of the synthetic Bitcoin possible, who has to earn, let's say, 30% per year. And there is the person who is holding on the Polkadot network the synthetic Bitcoin, which has to pay 30% per year in fees to the person putting the collateral. Now, it doesn't matter if this is done indirectly because the fees is set as 0, but in reality, the ENTR mint a lot of tokens to give them as incentive, but of course the token goes to 0 as it has been doing. I mean, the market cap is extremely low, so then we have to introduce the treasury to ensure we don't dump the ENTR token. At the end of the day, someone is paying. If the fees are 0, but the model is unsustainable and the treasury has to subsidize it, it's just that the treasury is paying the fee to benefit the people that hold the synthetic Bitcoin. But at the end of the day, the point is the cost of holding the synthetic Bitcoin is probably going to be 30% per year, which is crazy. So it means it's completely not scalable because, so what if and 45 Bitcoin is a ridiculously low amount. So what if we want thousands of Bitcoins? How much is it going to cost? It's going to cost millions and millions and millions in fees because someone, whether it's the treasury or the holder of the synthetic Bitcoin, someone eventually has to pay 30% per year on the value of the Bitcoins in this bridge. So it's kind of the most expensive bridge ever. So this is completely unsustainable, and it probably is just going to benefit a few people that are going to put some Bitcoin in this vault, and they may very well do nothing with it. So they may very well just put the Bitcoin in the vault, put the collateral, get the high return, and maybe just do nothing with the synthetic Bitcoin just to farm the reward, the reward which comes from the treasury. Now, what is an alternative then? Say, yeah, but what's the alternative? Maybe this is the only way to have Bitcoin on Polkadot. Well, the alternative is what Ethereum is doing with wrapped Bitcoin. So with wrapped Bitcoin, there is a multi-sig. People send the Bitcoin, and the owners of the multi-sig mint a wrapped Bitcoin on Ethereum. What is the cost of this? 0. Because no one has to put collateral, so no one needs to be rewarded for the risk, because whoever puts collateral has to take a risk, and they need to be rewarded for the risk. So with wrapped Bitcoin, there is no risk. No one needs to put collateral, so no one is taking any risk, so no one needs any reward. So someone can send 1 Bitcoin to the multi-sig address of wrapped Bitcoin, and that's it. And then a Bitcoin is minted on Ethereum chain, and someone can hold the wrapped Bitcoin forever at no cost, because no one is taking any risk. Now, some people will argue, oh, but it's centralized. Well, first of all, it still works, because the market cap of wrapped Bitcoin is billions of dollars, whereas the market cap of this of the Bitcoin in Interlay is nothing. It's like probably it's less than 45 Bitcoin, which is what they have as a target. But the reality is, what about USDC and USDT? Isn't it the same? So someone bank transfer $1 million to Tether or to Circle, and they mint on Ethereum or on Asset Tab in Polkadot some USDC or USDT. So wait, so USDT, USDC, it's fine? So we don't care, it's centralized, but it's fine. But if we, let's say, add some custodian, which I think is the best idea, so some custodian, and there are many, provide a multi-sig address, but it's handled by the custodian, like someone like Fireblocks or BitGo or whatever. We pay them through Treasury, probably less than this amount, They create like a Bitcoin address where people can send the Bitcoin there, and then they also issue on Asset Hub, just like Tether and Circle, instead of issuing synthetic dollar, USDC and USDT, they issue synthetic Bitcoin at zero cost with extremely high security. Because all the institutional use Fireblocks or BitGo, etc. So those solutions are incredibly secure and at no cost. So, and it's scalable, because this is completely not scalable. Because you cannot pay 30%, a fee of 30% per year, just so that it's a little bit more decentralized. Plus, who cares if it's a little bit more decentralized? Because it's kind of insignificant compared to the stable coins, USDC and USDT. And I'm arguing to use the same mechanism. So a mechanism that is as safe as what is being used for USDC and USDT, and that just like USDC, USDT has no fee. Whereas Interlay is, well, it's not really Interlay because it's this person's Spaz coin, which I'm not sure if it's representing Interlay. So maybe it's his idea, I'm not sure, to create this incentive. And by the way, I mean, he admits it here, yeah, so it's fine. That he's a vault operator, so he will benefit from the increased return from doing this. But this is not sustainable because it cannot grow, because to grow, it will require paying more of those incentives, so it just cannot scale. So why waste time and waste money with this, while there is a very easy solution, which is to do something just like for USDC and USDT for Bitcoin. There will be a Bitcoin address from a very well-known custodian like Fireblocks or BitGo or Bitcoin Swiss or whatever. People send the Bitcoin there, and a Bitcoin is minted on a synthetic Bitcoin gets minted on Asset Hub, and people can trade it, and they can hold it forever with paying zero. So what's the point of this except throwing money away and delaying a good solution? So unfortunately, it's winning. So if you agree with what I say, I think let's try to vote no for this.